In this video, I'm going to show you how to place the bellows boot on this Chrysler 300C. After this repair is performed, you will need an alignment on this vehicle, so let's get started. Use a 21mm socket and remove all 5 lug nuts, and then remove the wheel. With the wheel off, we can see our tie rods here, and they're locked together with this jam nut. Use a 22mm wrench, put it on the nut, and sometimes if it gets rusty, it will be a little bit difficult to get this on, but there we go. And then break this free. Sometimes it's necessary to tap the end of the wrench with a rubber mallet. That might help. I like to spray this with some rust penetrant. To help break it free a little bit more, I'm going to go back and forth and hopefully loosen this nut up just a little bit more. There we go, that's better. On the knuckle side, the outer tie rod is held on with a castle nut that has a cotter pin going through it. I will spray this down with some rust penetrant as well, and then we're going to have to try to get that cotter pin out. Now sometimes they don't come out, other times they do. If it doesn't come out for you, you can cut it flush and then hammer a socket right over. Alright, that does not seem to have worked, so I'm going to try to cut it flush on the inside as well, and hammer a 21mm socket right over that mounting nut. With that on, remove the mounting nut. Once it's off, put it back a few threads so that when we remove the tie rod stud from the knuckle, this doesn't fly out of here, but rather gets caught by the mounting nut. So at this point, we'll take a hammer and tap right here on the knuckle. That should separate these two. Take that mounting nut off and remove the tie rod stud. At this point, we have to unthread the outer from the inner tie rod. They are quite stuck together due to rust, so what I will do is put some locking pliers on the inner so I can hold it, and I'm going to use a wrench right here on this cutout on the outer to try and spin it off. As you do this, you want to count the amount of turns it takes to remove it so that when we put things back together, we put it back the same amount of turns, which is going to get you close to a good alignment. Obviously not spot on, so you still need an alignment after, but like I said, this will get you close. This right here is going to be a 22mm wrench cutout. It looks like for me, I'm going to have to apply some heat right here, and that should help me out in breaking this free. There we go. All right, at this point I could even do it by hand. So it just had to break free. And there it is. While I have the locking pliers on here and this is still hot, let's remove this mounting nut. Use a 22mm socket for that. Now grab some needle nose pliers and remove this clamp. Typically, all the way in the back on the boot, you'll see a metal clamp. In our case, because this has already been replaced, there is a wire tie, so I'm just going to cut it off with some cutters. If you had a metal clamp, you could put a pry bar on it or a chisel and just tap it or come in from under here and cut it off. Basically, your goal is to remove it. There it is. And at this point, you can take the boot, pull it off, and there it is. Now you want to take your boot, slide it over, just like so, and guide it up onto the power steering rack. There we go, that's snapped over. Now I'm going to get a wire tie and place it right in the center where the old clamp was. Press the boot on and tighten this up. I'm going to take those needle nose pliers that I used earlier, and while I'm holding the boot pressed in, I'm going to tighten up the wire tie. There we go. And of course, cut off the excess. Ensure that that's locked in properly, and it is. And over here on the outside, get that clamp, which you can reuse if it's in good condition. If it's in poor condition, use a wire tie. But this one's in great shape, so I'm going to put it right back on the tie rod. Apply a thin layer of anti-seize to all these threads. This is going to prevent it from getting stuck in the future and will definitely help your alignment professional do the alignment easier. Once you've done that, install the jam nut and thread it on all the way. This also will help work the anti-seize into the threads. Now take your outer tie rod and you want to put some anti-seize on the threads of the outer tie rod. And then you want to take the outer tie rod and thread it onto the inner, the same amount of turns it took to remove it. And there we go. Take the outer tie rod stud and put it through the knuckle. Put the mounting nut on. And tighten it up. 63 foot-pounds is the torque for this mounting nut. That's it right there. However, it is a castle nut, so to line up the slot, you'd have to continue tightening and not loosen. Mine actually happens to line up, so I'm going to leave it right here. But once again, never loosen these to line up, no matter how close they are. Go over onto the next slot. Put your cotter pin through, and we're going to bend it over to lock it in. Bring the jam nut closer, bottom it out. Put that 22mm wrench on the jam nut and tighten it up. That's snug. Give it a little bit extra, and that's it right there. I will pull back on the tie rod a little bit just so that the outer joint isn't at a severe angle. Make sure it's nice and straight. The rest of the adjustment will be up to your alignment professional. Let's get the wheel on. Let's put on all 5 lug nuts. We'll bottom them out in a cross pattern, and then also in a cross pattern, we'll torque them to 110 foot-pounds. A 110 foot-pounds in a cross pattern, here we go. Double check them. And there you have it. Take it for a road test, and don't forget to get an alignment.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.